Check, check. I think you can hear me. All right, we'll wait for Brent. I'm going to go make sure my daughter's out of bed. Y'all want to watch me type an email real quick? Brent is late. All right, I'll just go without him here in a minute. It won't be as good. Oh, Uncle Petey's here. I don't hear Uncle Petey.
Well, it helps if I unmute.
All right, we're live on YouTube. What do you think about that?
Oh, that's fantastic.
All right, I don't hear you very well.
You don't hear me very well?
Yeah, your microphone is way far away from your head, isn't it? Yeah, it's pointing off to like towards
How about
Egypt.
now?
That's a little better.
Is it just a little better?
Just a little better, but I can turn you up louder over here, I
The
guess.
volume is...
You know what? I have control over my headphone volume, so let me just crank you.
Yeah, my headphone... Maybe I pause and go back to a different headphone because I can barely hear you.
All right, well, I am pegging needles over here. Sound check, sound check.
Oh, that worked.
All right. You ready? Did you have a top? Actually, we'll just talk about what Alan does at Unity again. But I want to talk about. No, I want to talk about my new org. I want to talk about incident management. Do you have anything from your end? This is top-notch planning.
Yeah, I'm a little uncomfortable that you're doing the sausage making episode.
Holy cow! What did you just do? Because you went from like I can't hear you to blowing out my eardrums, and we can't have that during the recording. So, what are you gonna do about making sure your volume's consistent? What did you do that made you so much louder?
I have no idea.
Okay, you sound good now. Don't change shit. All right, you good? Say something.
Something.
Oh God, it's gonna be one of those days.
Did I go back to crap?
No, you're good. You're good now. You're good. Just try not to move around so much. He's fantastic. I see like cables wrapped around his arm, and I'm waiting for a disaster to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. You want to do this?
Sure.
Okay. Not once have I forgotten to press record on an A/B testing episode, but today may be the day. But it's not. It'll be another time. We are back for another episode. Hey, Brent, how you doing?
I'm doing swell, Alan. Wow. You know, it's been a break, huh? It looks like August 17th? 3 weeks?
We had a 3-week break. We shifted. Crap goes on. That happens. We are inconsistent. But we are consistently inconsistent. Sometimes 2, sometimes 3, occasionally 4, and occasionally 1 week between episodes. Right?
Yeah, the 1 week is rare. But yeah. I was just thinking through. I was looking at the last episode. We get something that I think we're not super accustomed to recently. And that is, we got praise for it, high praise, shocking. What did we talk about in that episode?
I don't know.
Yeah, and then you called it Azure powered.
Oh, I did, because you talked about Azure, so I called it. We were talking about names for Windows, I think, and it should be Azure powered. It made sense to those listening. So unlike this episode, so yeah, here we are. Hello, people watching the live stream. I'm sorry that it sucks, but we'll do better.
Will we?
Great. Do you have like anything new we should talk about before we dive into talking about me?
Well, the school's back.
Virtually, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I have to just before you showed up, I went and woke up my daughter so she can get ready. So she can get ready for school.
Yeah.
Always good to clear your throat on the podcast. That'll be a fun edit for me.
Yeah, my daughter should be waking up right now. I've changed my strategy. So on Tuesdays through Thursdays, I will stay at home. And then on Mondays and Fridays, I will, as you can see right now, I'm at work. I will go to work.
It's going to be fun. Those books you're slamming around on the table, those come across really strongly in the recording. So thanks for that. You just can't stop fidgeting with the crap around you, can you?
Yeah.
All right.
I think so we've joked in the past about the podcast being ADD ridden. I don't know that I mentioned before. I have a child that has been diagnosed with it, and I haven't gone in, but if it's genetic, I think everyone knows where it came from.
I don't think you need to go in.
The other thing, positive news. I don't think we talked about it. So you remember that I screwed up my finger?
Yes, I do remember.
Did we do an episode post surgery?
No, I don't think so.
We did not. So
did they plant a chip in you?
If they did, I can't tell.
All right. What
right
did they
here's do? So I've already gone in on the 20th. I've already had the sutures removed. Basically,
aren't they sutures?
Sutures, the strings, yeah.
Okay.
And you can see like the little dots for those on the the video version of the podcast.
Completely boring and probably edited out for the rest of you, but yeah.
Yeah, the
bonus material.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a local anesthetic. It was my first surgery, and even though it was no big deal, they even detected that my pulse rate and my blood pressure spiked the second I was in the room. And I'm like, yeah, I know what that's 100% about. Even though the rational's brain is like, dude, calm the hell down. This is no big deal, right? The inner child, the fight part, that was just full blown, like, oh my God, run, get out of here. It was an interesting experience. I enjoy those things where, so on the podcast, I think part of our partnership is I'm representing the IQ side of the house and you're representing the EQ. Not to say that.
No, that's totally true. You're the smart one. I'm the entertaining one.
In your case, though, it's not that you're a dumbass either. Although in my case, I tell my team I have two emotions. I use neither of them very often. But when I do, I am all in. That is all I do. And this one, it was. Anytime I can go, wow, I cannot push this emotion into its little box where I normally put emotions.
It's the right thing to do is take any emotion that you feel squish it up into a metaphorical little ball as tight as you can, and shove it as deep inside of you as you can, and keep it there.
Right. That's exactly right. And then, you put it in a little box, and then you take that box and you squish it up into a little ball, and you put another little box, and then you go find some deep.
And then you lock the box.
Absolutely. You lock the box, you hide it in a little dark internal corner. You close and you lock up the door to that little corner, right? Yeah, I mean, we could do this forever, but
yeah, we're not gonna, but
No.
we get the point. So you got your hand fixed, and it freaked you out, and now you're better.
Well, not entirely.
Now you're getting better.
Getting
now they're
better.
gonna amputate your hand.
I don't think they're going to go that far.
Okay.
Although we could have a discussion, like if they were to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Should I go with like full on?
Are you just like going to stare at your hand the entire episode?
Maybe. That's quiet, right? You want me to do something else?
No, you're good. Yeah, play with your hand. Play with your hand. Hey, I want to talk about, well, your EQ thing reminded me of a story I have to tell now. And then I want to talk about the other thing I wanted to talk about, which is me, but you'll have inputs. We are in the middle of, we do promotions twice a year in our org at Unity. And we have modified very carefully, because I know at scale it's gone very badly. We have modified sort of what Google do for promotions. We have
promotions here in this case does not mean like PR events. It means, hey, annual review time, blah,
promoting.
blah.
No, we don't really do annual reviews, but we do look at people for promotion twice a year.
Okay.
And what we do is at Google, as many of you may know, an employee anyone can choose when they feel like they should be promoted, and they prepare a packet of materials describing what they've done, and a panel of people, independent, not your manager, goes and reviews that. Ours is very similar. However, the employee doesn't do it by themselves. It's the manager recommendation, but it's a collaboration between the manager and the employee that makes sure that it's fair. And then we're in the middle of this, but anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'm leading one of the panels, and for a couple of the more senior promotions, and I lead some meetings at Unity where I have to be strict father figure. No, how should I describe this?
No, I get it. You're
you're
the adult in the room.
I have to be the major adult in the room and make sure and really push stuff along and be good. This was a small panel of senior people, and we had really good information prepared. And the goal of the meeting is to reach alignment on a bunch of criteria of evaluation. But we had all the information we needed to do well. So I'm kind of having fun, making sure it's fun to go through it. And there is one of the newer directors who I haven't interacted with a lot one-on-one. And I was doing my normal joking around, and he said something that I both felt good and bad about at the same time. He goes, and I won't try and do his Scottish accent, but imagine this in Scottish. I've never seen this Alan. This Alan is fun. And I thought, well, that's nice that you're having a good time here, but I'm sorry that you don't think I'm fun all the time. I have to project my fun Alan more often. So I feel bad that some people think I'm not fun.
Yeah. Did you bring Patron into the meetings? You introduce people to the group hug?
No and no.
Yeah.
So that's been going on. I have a couple of my folks being promoted. I have no idea how they're doing. I prepared packets for them. I worked with them to prepare them, and we'll see how they are reviewed. One cool thing about this process is the goal of the process is not to get people promoted. The goal of the process is for people put up for promotion, no matter what happens, whether they're promoted or not, that they feel like the process is fair, and they get good feedback as part of the committee. Like I still have to prepare and consolidate a bunch of feedback that my panel has written. And what we'll do is we'll give the decision along with a page of feedback on things that they're doing well, the areas of growth. We'll give that to the manager to present to them. So it's a cool process.
Yeah,
But anyway, fun.
my
It
favorite.
made me think
So,
of a fun Alan versus unfun Alan.
so my favorite part of that is, if you remember,
Part where I'm fun. The part is that your favorite part where I'm fun?
oh no,
No. Okay.
So I think my experience of you is probably 60% the fun Alan, and then 40% the pain in the ass adult person Alan.
Sometimes you have to get people to get stuff done.
No, get it.
I can, and to be clear, I can get people to get stuff done. Fun, but yeah, I know.
Now, so in my team, there's actually a name for it, and I have an employee.
Is Uncle Petey the fun Brent or the unfun Brent?
No, I haven't told you the Uncle Petey story.
No, but I don't want to hear it. Go on. Go
right,
on with story number one.
So story number one is there's a name for it within my team, and one of my employees who's also super high in EQ, she's the team's monitor. Think of it like a testing and production, a live site alert system. And she's like, guys, Brent's in command mode. So it comes from the fact that, so if you remember long ago, I put you through the Strength Finders stuff.
Yes, I just pulled that out recently.
One of the strengths is one called command.
That's not one of mine.
It's not in my top 5, but it is in my top 10. It's something that I use not every day, but maybe once a week, once every 2 weeks. And when I'm in command mode, it's essentially in the next 5 minutes, a decision is going to be made. That's command mode. I don't care where the decision comes from. I would prefer it become from you all, and it's something beneficial to everyone. But come hell or high water, there is going to be a decision in the next 5 minutes. That's command mode in a nutshell. The second story I have already forgotten.
No, we can skip Uncle Petey for now, but I want to give you a quiz. I want to give you a quiz first, then Uncle Petey, and then my stuff. You give me.
Okay, give me a quiz.
I'm gonna give you I have my top 5 Strength Finder categories in front of me. I will give you 1 point for everyone you can guess.
You've given it to me, so if I just
don't
stall
look it up.
if I stall long enough,
okay, you don't get to know.
So the one I experience all the time. So one of my strengths is called individualizer, and what that means is I'm actually really good at seeing the strengths of individuals.
Okay, good. What are mine?
I'm
glad your arms are folded so you're not typing. This is good. I just want you
one that I know of, and I see all of the time. You use this all of the time. It might even be your number 1. I don't remember the order. Is achiever.
That is number 3. Nice job. I work hard and possess a great deal of stamina. I take immense satisfaction in being busy and productive. Productive more than busy, but yeah.
Yeah. The thing that's interesting about achievers is so every strength is also a weakness.
Is this like the job interview when you say, do you have any weaknesses? Yeah, sometimes I work too hard.
Yeah, so that's not something I would say, but it would something it's something that you would say, potentially as an achiever. But the weakness, it's really what drives achievers. achievers are allergic, and that's just absolutely the right way of saying it. They are allergic to being idle. They cannot stand idle time.
Which ends up being kind of a crappy thing when you're stuck at home all the time, so you end up working a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm imagining like your backyard is freaking weed free.
The front
Right?
yard's looking good.
Yeah. You're like, crap, I need something to do on the weekends. When's the last time we fertilized? Home Depot trip, right? Crap like that. For you, here I'm kind of cheating now because I'm not leveraging my individualization. I am just trying to remember.
I will actually
strategic, I think, is one as well.
Numero uno.
Yeah.
I figure out how to get shit done and then get stuff done.
Well, so actually the thing that's interesting is futuristic in one of yours?
No, it's not. And I'll actually just give them to you so we can move on. But
okay.
StrengthsFinder is a book. If you buy the book, you can take the quiz and evaluate it. I thought about doing it. You can pay for more advanced stuff, but I like it. It does describe, it reminds me what I'm good at, what I need to, which is good for me sometimes when I'm just doing a bunch of different things. Number one is strategic, which is faced with given scenario, quickly spot the relevant patterns and issues. I do this all the time. Number two, you're not going to be surprised with, is learner. My superpower to success is I am totally unafraid to take on stuff I haven't done before and figure out how to do it as I go along. And I leverage my strategic in order to do that. Number three, is talked about, is achiever. Number four is analytical. And really it goes to strategy. It's I think about all the factors that might affect the situation. And number five is intellection. Introspective and appreciate intellectual discussions. So none of these should be surprising to you.
It isn't. Actually, I would never in a million years have remembered intellection. The mine. So the one thing that's interesting about you being like your particular package of top five, it's well suited for the role that you're in. The strategic is number one, and I don't want to go. This isn't the Strength Finders episode.
No, it's not.
But what most people will see of you is your first strength. But the thing that is fascinating about the Strength Finder stuff is that in general, what your goal is, like, you can think of it this way. You use the top four strengths to achieve some goal around the fifth one. So usually,
I don't know about that.
In my case, it's not true, but I will say that in the majority of the folks that I've tested that one with, it is true. This is something that Gartner put together this thing, and they have done like 50 years of multiple different sort of tests on it. The thing that I find fascinating in your top five that's interesting, and I think thinking back, it makes sense with sort of your personal struggle, is so these things fall into individual pillars, and in none of your top five, none of them is anything relating to people. Whereas I have two in my top five.
I wonder if it makes a difference that, I mean, these should be my strengths no matter what, but I remember when I took this, I was an IC, but I don't know. I'm not going to go too deeply into it. I do want to talk about people and especially the learning attribute. So how does your team learn new stuff? Like what opportunities, what what circumstances occur when your teams have the steepest learning curve? What happens in your product? And I'm trying not to lead you, but I'm just curious. Can you think of a circumstance where your team went on a steep learning curve?
Oh, I'm like the one that's the most prevalent to me is I'm still in the middle of it, right? Starting back in May, I doubled the size of my team with um, all new non-Microsoft folks. So a variety of them had industry experience in the past, but not here at Microsoft. And um, introducing them to two concepts. Number one, the Kanban concept. It is definitely not typical to, even if you're in industry, to run a data science team using an agile method. It's coming up. It happens more frequently now than it did, say, 5 years ago. But it's still atypical, not typical. This matter of fact, having any structure at all. So when we grabbed a bunch of these folks, a couple of them came from academia, which has their own sort of it's more of a waterfallish type process, right? Their job
is to research,
produce papers. There's a 6 to 9 month structure, and that might even be the fast track for postdocs. In an industry, a lot of the times companies will hire what they hope is a unicorn. They will hire larger companies don't do this, but smaller companies, they'll hire a data scientist because they know they need one. But then the guy shows up and they don't know what to do with them. They don't know how to manage their career. They don't have the mentor. So those folks get accustomed to a good deal of autonomy once they figure out how to survive in that environment. So what I'm dealing with right now is actually, in the second one, is my expectations of the data scientists is that they pick up the development skills as well. My goal in 1 to 2 years is that I am fully a full stack data science team. And then in 3 years, 4 years, I'm actually going to shift it. It's essentially we're a development team with a strong specialization in data science.
So you're on a growth path to get there on your vision.
We are. But every time we get a new set of people with their old culture, it kind of slows down the team dynamics.
So for me, and remember the A/B testing is, since the A comes first, it's about me. Where the biggest opportunities for organizational learning, and I'm a big fan of Peter Senge's Fifth Discipline about learning, and I do a lot of things in retros, et cetera, to focus on learning in the organization, but the bumps in learning for the organization happen when we have incidents in production. When we have an operational surprise, and we can find, because we don't just ship crap. Things happen usually because of a cascade of failures, a bunch of things going wrong at once, and both people problems and infrastructure or environment problems, and something goes wrong, and we get a massive opportunity to learn new stuff that we can share across the organization. So I also just recently, as of yesterday, doubled the size of my team. So,
well, that is a bigger thing, right? Because your team wasn't tiny to begin with, if I recall correctly.
So I have about 60 right now total. But what I cover now in my organization is the organization I added is it's an internal group name, so I'll just describe it. Maybe I'll just put it this way. So the big new thing I picked up is our site reliability engineering team, the team of about 20 people, 18 people who manage our incident process for all of Unity around the world. So anytime there's an incident, we have a bot that spins up a channel. People drive discussions, make sure we get the mitigation happening. People help shepherd the issue, bring in the right people, etc. So that team is with me. So now I get to, any worry I had in the past about not getting optimal learning over incidents is now my fault. And the other pieces, right, which is good, right? The other pieces I picked up are more of DevOps sort of teams that are working on infrastructure company wide. So I'm also now responsible for not all of it, but 90%, 95% of the infrastructure we use to deploy services across the entire company.
Okay, no big deal.
No big deal. No big deal. Just gotta ship stuff. Yeah, no problems. But it's fun because what happened with this latest merger we did, right? Last time my team grew, which was only a month ago. The last time my team grew, we merged actually the org that I used to be in, largely with the org that I'm in, to put almost all of our services in one place. But now even the services that aren't in my organization are supported by my organization in some way. So fun stuff, all stuff I like to do. I like to work on the stuff that makes things go. So I'm excited about it. I haven't even met with I've met with all of the people who will become my new direct reports already, but I look forward to getting to meet more of the team. And these people I've worked with all of them in one way or another up until now, just because I'm always in the incident channels in my other roles, trying to figure out what's going on and to push things along. So lots more to do. So we could go a couple different directions from here. You could just ask me random questions about the org and what I'm going to do, or we could talk about incident management in general, because there's a bunch of different ways to do that. But before I do that, I want to share one observation that came from this merger last month. We have a couple new directors in the org, and when we made this announcement internally to my peer group, one of the more senior people said, "Isn't SRE just a culture and not a role?" And before I could even answer, my manager said, "Yeah, same thing with DevOps." So I thought it was interesting. That I'm glad he got where I was. DevOps is not a role, it's a culture. We have a team to help promote that culture, and the SRE team does the same thing. So I'm glad everyone recognized that right off. But where do you want to go from here?
And maybe you just already answered my question, because
damn, I'm good.
On a recent episode of A/B testing, Alan and Brent discuss WTF is Alan's new team's name.
Oh yeah, we talked about that before. I was gonna call it delivery, but now I was pretty close, but I threw that away once I knew I was picking up everything else.
And so what is it now?
It's back to being called Alan Team for now, because we don't have a better name.
Alan Team. That's cool. You could use the @ sign. You could just call it that. No? Hello? Is this thing on?
Not on. Not on. That was your question? Well, your question was what to call the team. I don't know what to call it. Not going to worry about it for now.
Okay.
The right name will evolve as we grow. But one thing I had noticed is my local organization DevOps team and the work they were doing was overlapping a lot with this global infrastructure group. And to the point where we had to have a discussion just before this reorg was announced, where we were trying to figure out where should people ask questions about tool X, because you own it, but we support it, or we own it and you support it. So now it's all just, it streamlines a lot of confusing situations. To think of our customers being the people trying to develop services across Unity, there's confusion in where to ask questions or where to get support or what to do in a certain situation. Now we can streamline a lot of that much easier. So I'm excited. This is me being excited.
Sounds awesome.
And I have people on the team go, "Oh, this is so great to have these things aligned." So yeah, all part of my.
So how did SRE come into this? Like,
So SRE were part of that group. So there was a group of it's a reliability engineering group, but they also handled a lot of infrastructure tools and groups. That group included probably half the team were doing tools and infrastructure work, things like managing the GitHub relationship and some other company-wide tools. And as part of that, SRE is also company-wide, so they were separate. So now that my DevOps org actually is almost all of the services to Unity, not quite company-wide, but pretty close, it made sense to just to merge the company-wide stuff. And even my DevOps team does do some support outside of just our organization. So now it's all just the charter now is all just our org supports service infrastructure deployment company wide.
Okay. So makes a lot of sense why you want to talk about incident management.
Yes, because well, actually, while I complain a lot about things that happened at Microsoft and how not that I noticed when I was there, but when I left, I go, oh, this can be better. Microsoft did a pretty good job at incident management and in most cases having development teams own a larger part of it than we do here right now, and having very small SRE teams per organization. So I want to talk about the pros and cons of that. On my last team at Microsoft Teams, which by the way, I ran in a browser on Linux for the first time yesterday and it worked. So congrats to Microsoft for finally catching up. We had two people on our SRE team for Microsoft Teams, and their job was entirely to just really play oversight. We had the first person page was not the SRE team. It was the developer who owned the particular service that went down, which I kind of like. The differences between that and what we do at Unity is the SRE team gets the first page so they can jump in and create the channel and monitor things. But within seconds, the appropriate development owners are involved in figuring out what's going on with the incident. But I also know that at Microsoft, teams handled production incident what did I say there? Teams handle production incidents in different ways. So I'm curious, what have you seen as far as models for handling production incidents, and what do you think has worked well or not well?
So one of the things that's interesting, right, because you shared your perspective, and so I got to figure out at the same time, I got to answer your question and figure out, okay, what may or may not be an NDA violation. So one of the things that's interesting is like the scenario you talked about, but there's another bigger problem when you're trying to do this at scale. And Microsoft, so we talk about Azure, right? What is Azure?
Good question. What is Azure?
It's a very pretty color.
I was going to say the same.
Yeah, that just loaded a whole bunch of tangents, but I think we've killed
Control yourself, Brent.
I think we killed our tangent quota for today.
And maybe for the next episode too.
Possibly. But by then we'll have forgotten it. Doing it at scale is a challenge. You throw in addition to that is a metaphor I've been testing internally the last couple of weeks in terms of trying to get people. So I'm in several executive meetings and trying to set a metaphor. And in a lot of regards, Azure is like a set of Lego blocks. Right? We have a whole bunch of of Lego blocks. Matter of fact, what was the cool robot version of Legos? My son even has a set of it. It's the one where you can program it and do cool things.
The Mind Storm.
Mindstorms. That's it. Yes, thank you.
Happy to help, Brent. Happy to help.
Right. So, but the one thing so we have all these components, all these different little blocks. But as we've talked about before, customers don't want software. They don't, even if they come in nifty little components. What they want is a solution to a problem that they have. And in a lot of regards, unlike Legos, which has a very clean interface for connecting components together, we don't. And so one of the challenges is not only do we have to know when we have an incident, right? The team that actually had the monitor to detect it may in fact not be the team that needs to be on the line. And so there's a whole lot of infrastructure around how do we quickly identify who is the relevant knowledge expert, get them on the line so we can start knocking down the incident. There's as you might expect, there's a lot of process with that one, right? And that is one place where the SRE team here locally has spent a good amount of time on optimizing. It fails a great deal. We still end up having like the old school bug ping pong issues, if you remember back in the day.
I recall.
But generally what happens when there's an incident, there are three entities that get called into a public Teams meeting. Currently, I'm forgetting the name that we use for this. So a call is spawned, a conference call is created, and three people get immediately added, and that is a key. The current incident manager within SRE, the current incident manager from our customer experience team, because they are the ones accountable for socializing any customer-centric message that we're going to send out, say in a broadcast or to say the set of impacted customers. They're the ones that own that messaging. And then a person who owns the monitor that triggered. Okay, and then on that call, there's a lot of positive handoff. And again, there's that quest for what's the cause as quickly as possible. Who's the knowledge expert to go even deeper.
Okay.
There's a lot of post-incident process as well.
So this is the part, and all that administrivia was very interesting, Brent. Actually, it was interesting. But it's the post part that I think I care about a lot. So there's a lot of work to happen to make sure stuff gets resolved. We are not as good as I want to be at our time to detect and time to mitigate. So we work on improving those, but the work on improving those doesn't happen during the incident. Once the incident is resolved, the other thing our SRE team does is make sure that we have one, a RCA document, and sometimes it's depending on the team, it can be more of a task that's filled out versus driving towards a learning experience, and also make tracking to make sure that improvements are being made as a result of this, and that some of those improvements, or where applicable, are organization wide or company wide, and not just a quick fix on the team. So in driving those, where was I going with that? Other thing is we define incidents as an operational surprise. So we're pretty liberal about opening these. So one thing having the slightly larger SRE team helps is we have Pry 1 incidents, which are kind of what you're calling about, which require all hands on deck. Let's get this resolved as soon as possible. And that's where I really worry about that time to mitigate and time to resolve. But sometimes something is just wrong. It's not causing any customer impact, but we know from our monitoring and alerts that it's wrong. And we'll open up an incident on that because, again, going by an incident being an operational surprise, we're surprised by the way things look. We're getting, CPU usage up by 20% in this node. Okay, let's open an incident and go look at that if we don't understand it right away. And then we'll take the time to figure it out. Go, okay, we got this. Then the chances are from that, we may find something we've learned in systemic behavior that we can go either implement at an infrastructure level to make sure there's better monitoring in place, or just to educate teams on why these things may happen so they're not surprised by those in the future. So those, I don't know how often, I don't recall doing the latter class at Microsoft as incidents, but we try and track all those operational surprises just to make sure that not just the customer facing bugs or customer facing issues cause that reflection to happen, but taking all opportunities we can find to learn and get better. So one of the tweaks I'm going to make to the system is I feel like the process of analyzing an incident and doing a root cause analysis document has become a little rote-like and task-like and not emphasizing learning. So I think that's one of the tweaks I'll make, because that's, again, going back to my learner attribute, I'm really stoked about that as an outcome.
So it fascinates me how often I find that your work and my work are in alignment. Unfortunately, in this particular, it's something, my manager knows this. It's something that I have been trying to shed from my responsibilities for the better part of the 2 years. But he and I are partners on it, and he refuses to go alone, which understandably, were I in his shoes. So we have a postmortem process, is what we call it. There is a non-trivial retrospective that occurs for each of these things.
Yeah, and we do those for the ones that have customer impact. We do an in-person retro as well.
And there's an expectation of what we call repair items that will get communicated. The SRE team has done I'll give them a C+, B- on this, because those processes, the identification, the postmortem, and the repair, they too have become, as you call, rote, right? And they're a bit of a make work exercise. And whenever I get on a meeting with folks, I share two stories. One of the biggest issues, and I don't think I'm violating NDA by sharing this, because I think it's a common thing. If you go read Google's SRE thing, it's a problem that they have as well. Although I suspect, Google wrote the book on SRE, literally. I think they just have a maturity that we in Azure only have in it's not holistic. It's not something that is part of the whole Azure culture just yet. Anyway, when we go through this, one of the things that I have noticed, so I read every postmortem every month. The quality of these things just range. Uh, right, one of the statements is, what was the customer impact? Okay. And I cannot tell you the number of conversations I've had with folks around the answer to that question is a friggin' number. Okay. Alan, I cannot hear you. You just went.
That's exactly what we tracked there because.
Okay.
Sorry, I muted so I could type something a minute ago.
Oh, got it.
I think it was Yulia recommended that I install the MS Teams app, or said there's a Teams app available for Linux. I said, no way, I'm installing that crap. But I had two quick thoughts, and I've forgotten one of them. One of them is I think our roles align because even though neither of us are anything close to a testing role, we both are still driven by the modern testing principles. That's our life, and so of course we align things those way. But in our incidents, there's a field, a must be filled out field, which is not customer impact, but revenue impact. And people have to go work with the BI team and figure out if there was a revenue impact and put it in there. And I track that because I want to know, one of my metrics I track is percentage of net revenue lost due to incidents. So so customer impact comes out as a number, and that number has a $ in front of it.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, so we spawned up a process about a year ago to try to do exactly that. In our case, though, that data is considered, at the source is considered GDPR. And once you put those 4 letters on any data source, people are like, whoa, nope, not touching that one. Nope. Because every data point I have to add, 60 weeks of effort to guarantee I'm caretaking it. It's just a lot easier to say.
Come on, nope. Microsoft's rich. Just pay the fines.
Yeah, no one wants to be the person that's first in the news for doing that one either.
Facebook, we're already first in the news.
No, I mean like internally. I don't want to be the first person in Microsoft for that one. No, thank you. Someone else can go first. Let me tell you a couple things that I've been beating hard on this topic. One that was very helpful, and another one that's sort of my new meme. So the first thing is I find one of the problems that we had about 2 years ago is the way we define the SRE process. We're essentially, so you called it priority, we call it severity, okay? And it's essentially the class of the incident is defined by a single value, okay? A P0, a P1.
And technically our pri is sev, but yeah.
Okay, so I've done a lot of work to get that to be 2 values, not 1. And the main reason why is if you look at it, well, I don't know how Unity operates. So if a low, do you categorize your monitors? Like if this monitor fires, it's a 75% chance it's only going to be a P4? No. Okay. So when a monitor fires, is every monitor treated like a potential situation?
It depends, but we have mostly smoke alarms.
Okay, so you have so in Unity you're going to have a signal to noise problem that you're going to try to, that you exactly. Probably want to work through.
It's getting better, definitely very good in some places, but it's an area I'm working on improving.
So I do like so Google in their SRE book, they talk through
Which,
their.
by the way, is an excellent freaking book.
It is, and it's interesting. It was published, I don't know, 10 years ago now, and I think it's still very relevant to today because there's a lot of folks who like Google developed this from essentially the dominance in search, in both just like within Microsoft, like Bing has forgotten how to succeed at managing incidents that the rest of Microsoft, in some regards, has yet to learn.
Yeah, and keep in mind that Google is not a search engine company. Google is an ads company that happens to provide a search engine in order to further their main business. And that's similar to us in the fact ads are their revenue. And in the large part of my organization, that is true as well.
Sure. The what I was just saying is that they detail a review process that they specifically have spawned up to essentially evaluate the goodness or the goodness of fit for monitors, and they will have the authority to remove a monitor from the system. Hey, you know what? The last 9 times out of 10, this thing created noise. This bad boy's gone. What I have done is change it to 2 variables, and I call them impact and urgency. Okay, it's because one of the things where our current system that prevented in it, way we had or was doing it, that your system, you don't have to worry about it. You don't yet have to worry about it. Just remember that the scale that we're talking about is fundamentally different between Unity and Azure here. The number of different teams, the number of different people, it's just a fundamentally different scale. But so the impact is intended to mean like how bad is it? Okay. Urgency though was how quickly does someone need to get on it? Okay. And the reason why I wanted to separate those two is because when they were combined together, people only got on it when the impact was bad. In other words, we didn't have something in the system that said, hey, this thing went down. We better get on it right now because in the next 5 minutes, we know from the domino chain, in the next 5 minutes, that's going to lead to a major outage. Someone needs to get on it right now to prevent an inbound outage, not an already occurring one. Sure. Right? To move it to be more of a preventative thing. And we have teams that started using this. They're very successful. Unfortunately, it created a confusion because they were like, well, wait a minute, why did you declare this as a Sev 1 when there's only 2 customers impacted? And they came to us and they were like, you guys are breaking the process, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, nope, they are not. And I will go to Scott Guthrie if you even hint.
Oh yeah, call Dad into the room.
Oh, go straight to Super God. Yeah.
So we do slightly different. I think my approach is slightly different, but I think the same impact is, again, we don't have the scale, and when our stuff goes down, well, some of it can be really bad. But I mentioned these Pry 2 incidents, which is an operational surprise. Everything is a Pry 1 by default. And the first thing you need to do is prove that it's not, if it's just a learning experience, the first thing you do is prove with data that it's not a Pry 1. So we assume everything is urgent. Like an operational surprise, we have to assume it's from initially that it's something we need to jump on. And then if someone says, oh, this isn't that big of a deal, the next answer is, or the assumed next step is, but I'm gonna prove that. And then once they've proved, yeah, this is not a big deal, this doesn't impact anyone, they can show data to show that, and then they can go investigate it at a slightly less urgent level. But
So
often what will
it
happen
is.
is what I'm saying is we discover the urgency and impact sometimes in that initial investigation. There might be an incident that says it starts with installs are down 10% in this region. So we'll open that as a pry 1, like oh, this looks like just a reporting anomaly. Prove it. Like, yes, it is a reporting anomaly. Oh, nope, reporting's right. This is a real big thing. So we have to get into the hi Nona. We have to get into the we have to get into the investigation of the incident before we can start. All right. Good for the live cast. My squeaky door, not so much for the recording.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. All right. Any final word? Like, this is we got someplace eventually. Any final recaps or rebuttals or things
Well,
from you
so
on that side
there's
before we close?
there's one other thing I just want to share very quickly. I have another meeting now, but I'm not really passionate about attending it anyway.
Well, I'm passionate about attending mine, so close shit up.
All right. So one of the things that I've discovered repeatedly from reading the postmortems over and over again, and I'm actually publicly beginning to question: has anyone done any analysis specifically on whether or not the postmortems or even the repairs that were targeted have had an impact? Because the thing that I've seen over and over again is what's happening with Azure right now is everything is not even the 1% scenario, but rather the 0.01% scenario, right? It's the really rare scenarios can have a particularly big impact. And because of those right, we have an issue where the repair items, in my humble view, are unlikely to actually ever be needed again. Like, this incident is unlikely to ever reproduce. The other thing that we've discovered is one of the major causes is that one of the major causes is actually manual intervention. A developer had no choice but to override an automated system, and they did so in error. And that's how I'm viewing it. Like, anyone who has to do a manual intervention is actually a victim, and we need to figure out what broke in the process.
When I do retros with teams, one of the part of the speech I typically give at the beginning is, this isn't about blame, not about blah, blah, blah. It's about figuring out what's wrong in the system that enabled this error to occur.
Right. All right. That's a good way to close it.
All right.
Let's do that. Good to see you again. I think next time we're doing
2 weeks. 2 weeks we have a guest. Unclear whether they'll allow us to live cast them, so I'll keep the channel posted. Thanks, everyone. I'm still Alan.
And I'm Brent.
Au revoir.
All right, you got it?
Yeah, we're good, man. See you later.
Ciao.
Bye, everybody.